Okay, take us through like what
Shadow.
is shadow? Because people get it twisted.
So in the same way we've done an unpacking inner child work episode, shadow and inner child are intrinsically connected. One, because Carl Jung, the psychologist, was the one that put the concepts on paper. Obviously didn't invent them, but put them down and formalized them. And there's overlap with them. Like we're going to get into it in our own experiences. I have a lot of overlap with them. However, your shadow is a piece of you, a version of you, a version of your identity that exists within you, like your inner child does. But the shadow is the most rejected aspects of self. So it's the most embarrassing, shameful, cringy, hateful, rejected, like
That you're rejecting and causing shame, putting
your
shame on.
perception of yourself, like the darkest, what you perceive as your most unlovable traits, your darkest traits, whatever those are, those culminate into like a version of self called the shadow. And when you can personify that version of yourself and then form a relationship with it, get to know it, have conversations, like heal it, interact with it, that's where this magic happens of learning to love every part of yourself in a way that feels grounded and integrated and kind of takes your power back. Like, you know, we always say what resists persists, or like you have to feel through the feeling, you can't go around it. So looking right at it, acknowledging it, giving it attention, giving it love, making it a part of your self-concept is what takes away the shame or the power of that shame or hate that you may have.
I think what's interesting about shadow work is that your shadow, they're not always bad traits.
No.
And this
not
isn't me
always, yeah.
excusing shitty behavior, but like a way that I like to think about it are like, what were the things that you were teased when you were little? Like, what were the things that people made fun of you
yeah,
for that you
that's
then
totally
became
it.
really embarrassed by
Yeah.
and you were ashamed of and you
Yeah.
were like, and then what's sad about it is that we abandon those qualities and those traits and that version of self in order to feel like we are deserving of love or people will love us more if we don't do those things.
Which is ingrained in us as a species. Like
Yeah.
being accepted by your community is it's survival.
Yeah.
It's how we survive. So it's such a natural thing to do that, to fit in, because it's just ingrained in us in that way. So it's
Yeah.
natural and it makes sense. And it's, you know,
like a
everyone does
little-
it for a reason, but
Yeah. I look at
reclaiming that back. Whew.
Yeah. I look at shadow work like a little archaeology project because it's like you're uncovering
That's a cute
the
visual.
things that you could have buried and some of which, yeah, you want to let go of and you're like, yeah, don't j'adore that one. But other things are like, maybe you were like, people always told you were loud or you were like the class clown and felt like everyone was telling you to fucking calm down and like relax and like shut the fuck up. And now you really internalize that and you're whatever. And we're going to explore like
Or
how this has
trauma.
shown up for us too.
Yeah.
Or things that if you've been in
Victimhood.
partnerships or if your parents put you down for something and all that sort of that. So it's interesting to like uncover and dig up those versions of self and see the ways in which like you can find the silver lining in them. And again, choose and put aside the ones you don't want, but like still love them and have acceptance and whatever. But then with the other ones, you could be like, oh my God, wait, I loved that about me when I was little. I loved that childlike sense of wonder or that like freedom and the goofiness and playfulness. Like I want to bring that back in me, which is then when inner child work gets introduced.
Just gonna say that. I was just gonna say that. And I will say before we dive into, you and I really, I mean, the whole ethos of the show is that getting to know yourself and like feeling comfortable with yourself never ends. So it's fun to do it together and to like kind of make it fun because it never ends. This is a version of the work that fucking sucks. Like this is hard. This can be so dark. This can be like some of the hardest feelings and emotions to move through. Like shadow work, when done properly, is hard work.
Well,
so
yeah.
I don't want to gloss over that.
And let's talk about the work of it. Like what can it look
Okay.
like?
Oh my gosh, many, many different things. I think I first explored it in therapy, of course. It can look like reading books and learning about it. It can look like meeting yourself in meditation. It can look like kind of like the tools, like these guided visualizations, which I have a practice about it that I do often that we can get into. So it's similar in the way that we speak about mental health work is not one size fits all, and you can find different modalities to serve you. You absolutely can in shadow work as well. I'll say personally, Barry and Kristen's work has been monumental for me. And broken record, TBM, unblocked shadow, just because they really have those EMDR meditations. And sometimes the shadow's so ingrained, or as we know, like our subconscious beliefs, we can consciously think different things throughout our day, but then those really deep rooted ones are harder to get into. So going into like a deep meditation, having those tones go back and forth, like doing the prompts to guide you through, that changes like from a very like bottom
Yeah.
up feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll link some resources in the show notes, of course.
Yeah.
But those are two that are really impactful for me personally. You can look up different information of it, but we always love working with a therapist or a coach,
Yeah.
reading, meditations.
Journaling is a really
Journaling
good
is
place to start.
huge. Journaling's-
Co-Create has a lot of shadow work prompts.
Yeah, we did that on purpose.
Yeah.
We made a lot of shadow work prompts in there.
Yeah.